Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lucas.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tomo here from the Rangers Journal, hosting this week for our weekly news show, which comes to you every Friday at 12 o'clock. Before I introduce our guests today, I'd just like to give a shout out to our sponsors of the pod, Bluebells, located in the sunny Canary Islands of Lanzarote. Show all the Rangers games, family friendly, food and drink. So if you're in that area, Porta del Carmen in Lanzarote, pop in, say hello, get some food, watch the Rangers games and have a few drinks. So once again, thank you to Bluebells for sponsoring our pod. This week, I'm joined by Bob and Billy. How you doing, Bob? You had a good week?
Yeah, not too bad. It's obviously been a good week for Rangers this week with a positive result and a couple of signings, and obviously we're hoping that a third one is announced imminently, so we may have some breaking news on the pod depending if Rangers want to give us a treat before tonight's game. But yeah, it's been a good week, Tom, so looking forward to today's show.
Yeah, it has been a good week so far. A good start to January, hasn't it? Good start to 2026. And also, Billy, good to have you back. Billy, how you doing? You okay?
Yeah, mate, I do this from the coldest room in the house, and it's absolutely freezing outside today, so I've got my hoodie on, try and keep warm for this. But yeah, it's definitely been a good week regards Rangers and the Rangers landscape of things, with signings, with results, with fixture list upcoming. It's all looking positive at the moment, mate. It
is. And I'll just use this opportunity, but as you can see, Billy's got a lovely Rangers Journal hoodie on. I am drinking from a lovely Rangers Journal mug. So you can get these on our website. Go there, some good merchandise there. So if you want to support the channel and get some decent clothes and mugs, amongst other things, please head over there and have a look and buy something. So we'll start off, Billy. You mentioned it, Bob. You mentioned at the Aberdeen game at the beginning of the week, so we'll go all the way back to Sunday. Seems almost a lifetime ago now. But up to Aberdeen, we beat them 2-0 at Ibrox on last midweek. We went up there, not very good conditions. Had what was a fairly comfortable match. What was your thoughts on the game, Bob?
Yeah, same, Tomo. I think when you look at it, you know, we've obviously built a bit of momentum and confidence within the team towards the end of last year into the turn of the year. Obviously a statement win which we've all discussed on the 3rd, and that just rolled over, pardon the pun, into the two back-to-back games against Aberdeen. So it was probably as comfortable a victory up there as we've had in recent times. I know Pittodrie is always a tough ground to go to. It's usually always emotional. You know, as Danny Rowe had said in his press conference afterwards, you know, we played men's football, and it's nice to see some of the players that we slated at the start of the year kind of starting to step up, you know, and take a bit more accountability and leadership in these games. So yeah, it was a positive result. You know, 5 wins on the spin. We can go into the cup game tonight. You know, I'm not sure how many changes he'll make, but yeah, we're certainly riding a wave of positivity in terms of results, Tom. We're certainly, you know, we're obviously looking to be more positive in the first half of the year. So yeah, I was happy with the result. It seemed slightly, I say boring, but again, I'm probably temper that by saying it was comfortable. So yeah, it was a good result, and I'm looking forward to tonight's game and into the next few fixtures.
Yeah, and Billy, just touching on something that Bob said there, where it was almost boring, but compared to where we were beginning of the season, a game like that under Russell Martin, I wouldn't have expected us to even get a draw out of it, to be honest. What impressed you most about our performance, or just the game in general on Sunday?
I've heard a lot of folk in the pods, various pods this week, talk about how it was a kind of complete performance and that we were always in control. I must watch matches with a different mindset because I felt they were pressing us really high all the time, and we never had enough players up front when we broke. But looking back at the highlights, at least it wasn't really like that. You talk about under Russell Martin. If we had gotten to this stage with Russell Martin, we'd be very firmly in the bottom six, I believe, at the moment. So going into these two, coming off the back of an Old Firm game that we wouldn't have won, going into a double header against Aberdeen, we'd be lucky to probably come out with one draw out of the two. So the improvement in the players under Danny Rowe, you can't really take away. It's not the players, we see that now. It's most certainly the style of play that the manager was asking them to play. But to go up to Aberdeen on a nighttime fixture, usually we come away with a draw and a red card or something, but to go up there and have a comfortable win, it was almost like, well, there's no drama. It's routine, and it's difficult saying that coming off the back of even losing to Hearts, but the 5 games after that have been, an improvement. And even the Hearts game, I feel, could have went a different way if that early goal had been allowed. If we didn't kind of lose our minds for 10 minutes and lose 2 goals, that the game was done, then firmly believe that we're on the up and up. And looking forward to the game tonight. Bob mentions about changes. I don't even know how many changes we could make. If you looked at that bench the other night there, it wasn't exactly filled with players you'd be wanting to bring on or wanting to start a game, was it? It was all kind of secondary line players.
Yeah, definitely. It was. There didn't look to be a lot of options there. Just for my take on the game on Sunday, what sort of impressed me even most was we started off and Fernandez, we know he likes to sort of play the ball round at the back, and I think he'd done it a couple of times in the first half, and the message obviously got through to him. Those weren't the conditions to be doing that sort of thing, and we were just playing the simple football, putting the ball in behind Aberdeen at times, making them turn. So the way our tactics changed, I thought is really impressive. And as you said, Billy, recent years gone by, would have gone up there, maybe got a draw and a red card, and that would have been it. But it was certainly encouraging. So the bench point takes us nicely to our next topic, which is new signings. We've had confirmed this week Romans, the left back. He'd been talked about for maybe a week or so that we were interested in him. Bob, we're not getting much information really, but when it is coming out, the deals seem to be getting done fairly quick. Is that showing you that the club is being run a little bit more professionally than maybe it has done in years gone by?
Yeah, 100%, Tomo. I think probably going back to a couple of points that Billy had made in previous pods is that, for so long, these signings were, being leaked by the club, obviously by someone or some persons within the club, and we were getting told pretty much everything about them. What's their favourite meal? Not just their height and measurements and where they play. It was pretty much everything that was been provided to us through the mainstream media. So to me, the last couple of windows, obviously since the takeover in the summer, we've certainly shown that we're being run in a far better manner, especially probably more so this window, because we're obviously going through it at the moment. I think that it helps us from a point of view in terms of fans that we're only really hearing about these signings at the point that they're pretty much done and dusted. I know there's Romans, again, as you said, was maybe a week to a couple of weeks. I know there had been some links, and I know the stats guys have went through a number of players, maybe not everyone that we've been linked with, but even the likes of Chukwani, had been kind of looked over in the last couple of weeks, and then obviously we got the good news that both those players had signed for us. So it's certainly a positive aspect, Tomo, and I think we're certainly on the right track. It looks as if Danny Rowe's done what he said he was going to do in terms of the traffic light system that had been mentioned. He's assessed the squad. He's going and getting players that we need we've all talked about it before the window opened, that a left back and a midfield, at least one midfielder, was urgently needed. Obviously more so left back than in midfield, but obviously with injury to Conor Barron, he's obviously mentioned that in his last couple of press conferences as well, that may slightly change the path that they were taking on transfers and maybe look to get an additional midfielder in. So yeah, it's certainly positive. It's good to see that deals are being done. Money, I'm not saying money is no object, but we're certainly hopefully going to get value for money for these players. We're not looking at trying to scrape deals through for pennies. We're going out and paying a decent premium for what we hope are quality players. And hopefully we get the return on that investment with success in the league and the cups, and hopefully next year in Europe. And obviously we can then hopefully make a bit of profit on it. So yeah, we're certainly on the right track so far.
Yeah, and Billy, Romans, he's obviously a left back. I think Danny Rose came out and said we might not see him for maybe 3 weeks because he was carrying a slight injury. Is there much you know about him? I believe he's a Belgian under-21 international. It's cost just under 4 million, £3.5 million, I think it was. So obviously got a bit of pedigree and a bit of hope about him for the future.
It's to say I know much about him, not more than what our scouting team have done for us during the week. What has been, and not to blow our own trumpet, what's been quite good is when Rangers have signed a player, we've already done some kind of scouting on him. So that's good from our point of view, that we're using the kind of knowledge that we've got through the various, like Y Scout and stuff like that to pull up reports on players. So, and I know we do so many of them, it's going to be one of these things that you shoot an arrow and then, paint the bullseye around where it lands kind of thing. So when it comes to that with us, but we do so much scouting on all the available players that when one does come through, we've got the information for the guys that follow us on Twitter and follow us on YouTube, whatever, to let them know what the player's like. Certainly, I think he's represented Belgium all youth levels up to under 21s, so that's a good sign that he's going to probably break into the Belgian first team. It's very Rangersy things to do, sign a player who's already injured. That annoys me a wee bit, but I'm going to have to suck it up and accept that. Yeah, he is in training, so he's not far away from playing. But ideally, we like to see players that are coming in and ready to hit the ground running. The only thing I would say is people were saying left back position was a problem. You're right. There was only one player playing in that position, but I thought McGowan has been playing pretty well. So there was no major urgency. We do have one or two other players that could cover there in an emergency, but we've got someone in that's probably going to be looking at being a main left back for the next couple of years, isn't it? And then, as Bob said, hopefully try and make a bit of profit on him. After they've done us a good turn, maybe we'll get a couple of championship seasons under them, and then we'll go from there and try to find a replacement. So yeah, it's looking good. I mean, I'm refreshing my Twitter to see if we've announced any the Skol Olsen signing. Nothing as yet, unfortunately, and it's very annoying because I was hoping it would coincide with us starting at 12 to be able to come with the news. But as far as we're led to believe, there's nothing going wrong with that. It's all just ready to be. And I think you maybe even seen the leaked picture of the strip with his name on it hanging up. So it doesn't look like there's any hiccups to that signing. Just waiting for the official announcement now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, with Romans, as you mentioned, Magoma. He's obviously on loan from Brentford. He's a young lad who, for all intents and purposes, this is his real first season of first team football. And I'm with you, Billy. I think he's really started to grow into that role, but it's unfair to ask him to play every game and every minute. So getting another left back in was a priority that we needed to get done, and we've got it done quickly. It's just a shame, as you say, he's not ready to hit the ground running. So on to the next one then, which we hope is going to be announced fairly soon. The Danish winger, Scott Olsen, a player we've been linked with in the past, Bob. This is one that really gets the juices flowing, excites the fans. He's a player with pedigree, and what I would say is I think he's shown what sort of person he is, in that coming to us with potentially an option to buy, he's he's wanting to play. He's not just wanting to pick up a wage, because I would imagine he's probably going to be taking a wage cut to come to us.
Yeah.
The rumours are that I read this morning that a option to buy for £9 million is being put in place. What's your thoughts, Bob? What's your thoughts on Scott Olsen?
Well, thankfully, this morning I watched the Scott Olsen breakdown that Scotty and Ryan and Colin did last night with one of the guys that follows Club Brugge quite closely. So if you've not seen it, go and check it out. It is actually really quite insightful. I watched that this morning, so it was a really good breakdown, Tom. I think for me, it's quite interesting. I have not watched him in depth, but from everything that we've been seeing from him, the previous links, he looks an exciting player. I'd probably say we've always had a wee bit of luck with wingers coming out of Denmark. I'm sure everyone can remember Ovenkrands and Laudrup. So if he's anywhere near the quality of those two players, we're signing a gem. And again, if we can bring him in, if he hits the ground running, if he gets back to the numbers that he was hitting at Club Brugge, we can certainly sell him on for a profit in a couple of years. Again, as Billy mentioned, with the other guys that are coming in, if they come in and help us win titles, we'll certainly see a return on that. And just a point, I know it might take us off slightly and a bit of a separate path, but it was quite interesting that he's also played for Nordsjælland. And I think Chukwani, Diomande and Ant-Man have all played for Nordsjælland previously, so I'm hoping that helps him settle in a lot quicker than maybe a lot of other players, if he's got familiarity with players that are in the dressing room at the moment, that can help him settle in. It's certainly a big bonus that they've all got that kind of tie to the team at Nordsjælland previously. So I thought that was something just to bring up, just as an interesting tidbit. But yeah, for me, it's something that hopefully gives us a bit of extra creativity at the final third of the park, which we have been lacking, and maybe frees up, excuse me, the likes of Gassama and Moore and Chermiti. To really focus in on their game. I know I mentioned it in the group chat last night that obviously the figures that you mentioned, Tomo, we're obviously paying a significant loan fee with the likelihood it's going to be 9-10 million in the summer. If he's successful, maybe that just allows Chermiti, the heat to come off him in terms of the price tag, and allow him to hit a bit of form in the second half of the season without worrying too much that he's been scrutinised for the price tag. So yeah, again, it looks as if it's a positive signing. An area which we have lacked. He looks a quality player, and I just hope that we see the scarf picture sooner rather than later.
Yeah, 100%, Bob. And Billy, again, Bob touched on it there. Our final third, our striking talents haven't really been fired in this season. When you think back to last season, we had Cherney, who got almost 20 goals. Dessers, best part of 30 goals. The regular sort of front three that we've had this season haven't been anywhere near that. Is Scott Olsen going to be the one who can get those kind of numbers that Cherney was getting? Obviously, he's only going to have half a season, but in this last part of the season, is he going to be able to get those sort of numbers that Cherney was hitting?
I guess we'll need to wait and see, Tomo. I'm very hopeful of it. There's a few benefits for me over Cherney. Obviously, a lot of people have complained, why didn't we sign Cherney in the summer? Well, he's a full 2 years and 2 months younger than Cherney. Probably is going to be a similar price, maybe a bit more expensive than Cherney would have been. And we've only lost out in really half a season. And for whatever reason, we're still in this league, even though we probably don't really deserve to be based on the start we had. But we are. So for me, it's a better option than Cherney. The only thing I would say is Cherney proved that he could do it, and he could do it in Europe as well. But I mean, he's got how many 40 odd caps for his country. you don't get that if he's not a decent player. It's whether it's I mean, we've had players come from the Eredivisie and not done well. Sam Lammers would be one of them, who rips it up over there, but comes over here and is just not. This league isn't for him. I'm going to hope that the Cherny example is the one that's more a comparison, like for like comparison. But for me, it's we're getting a player because we talked about this in a pods over the summer. Would you throw that money in for Cherny? You would really need to. You understand you weren't going to get your money back on him because of his age. We keep him for a couple of seasons. We don't get 9-10 million back for him. But there's a real opportunity if we get 2 good seasons out of Olsen, then we do get that and maybe even more back. And it's a bit of if this is the signing that gets us over the hump of winning the league. I mean, like Bob said, I watched the interview last night or the pod last night, just when it was going live, and I couldn't believe Scotty of all people saying we're dead set to win the league. He's normally a bit more reserved when it comes to predictions like that, but not. He's been thoroughly won over, and all I can say is I feel it. I want to be on board with it, but it's Rangers, isn't it? We never really do things the easy way. So it's he's very promising. He's got great statistics. Obviously not doing very well at Wolfsburg at the moment. There must be a reason for that. It could just be the players around him, could just be the league. And we just have to hope that this is a league he can thrive in, because we are really starved of. I mean, I don't really blame Chimiti or Amiovski particularly, because they're not going to get 25 goals a season because they're not getting the chances created for them. So that's hopefully going to change with this signing, maybe 1 or 2 others.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you on that last point, Billy, about the chances being created for the strikers. I thought again on Sunday, I thought Chimiti had a very good game up front, but he was only really made the one chance by, I think it was Moore, where he's played it into him, and the keeper's made a good save. Ritov's made a good save. I don't think Chimiti could have done much more. But Bob, going back to this, January is usually a bit of a difficult month to get players in. A couple of seasons ago, we were right in a league title fight. Maybe should have gone out and got someone like Shankland. Didn't, and it probably bit us in the backside. We can't turn around now and say that these owners and what have you aren't doing what they can to win us this league. I think it's 4.5 million for Chitwani, 3.5 million for Romans, and now if Scott Olsen comes, that's going to be another chunk of money. Is it encouraging for you to see this obviously happening, and that they believe that we're capable of winning the title, and they're listening to the manager?
Yeah, 100%, Tom. I think it's a real. I don't want to keep coming back to, but we're making a statement with these signings that the board back the manager, and they totally they're very, very high in confidence that with the management team that they've put in place after the woeful first half or first quarter of the season, that we're now. And again, I know that it's not just us. We've got to focus on us, and the results that we've had are extremely positive. We've talked in depth about that. The fact that Danny Rose come in and won like 11 out of 15 games. He's accumulated the most points since October. If we'd went and got him in the summer, who knows where we could be? We could be out in front of the top of the league. I know that's all if buts and maybes, but to come back what you were saying, it's certainly a sign of intent from the board and the investment side, that they're confident that with the quality additions that we're making in this window, and again understand totally that this is a notorious window to try and go out and get said quality players, but we're doing it. We're going and paying the money to get these guys in, and hopefully they make the difference come May time. We've obviously got the Scottish Cup game tonight. We're hopeful that we can get through to the latter stages of that again. I know last year we had probably one of the worst results that we've had against Queen's Park. So to me, Tomo, it kind of comes back to what Kavanagh said when, you know, they brought Danny in and let go of the previous management team, to say, you know, they're taking accountability, they're rectifying their mistakes, and I think this is part of that. Is they knew that it wasn't going to be one window needed to get us back to where they want to see us. It's going to take this window next summer, maybe another window after that. But with the results that we've been getting with the team, considering how poor we all felt the team were, prior to Danny Rowe and the management team coming in, he's getting absolute song and dance out of the players that are there, and bringing, whether it's 4, 5, or 6 players, they're making they're really doubling down and saying, go, we're giving you what you want or what you need. Go and be successful. Go and be successful. Go and win us a cup. Go win us a title. And that's your reward for us investing in you, in your management team, and in the team that you're playing on the park. So yeah, to me, it's great to see, considering, a year to 2 years ago, we probably couldn't rub 2 nickels together to get somebody in the door, Tomo. And I'm not saying we should go out and pay over the odds and be paying premiums, but again, maybe the likes of Skull Wilson, you need to go and pay that premium to bring in someone of that quality. Just as Billy said, if you get a couple of seasons out of him, he comes in this season, scores 15 goals the next 6 months, wins as a cup, wins as a league, stays for another year and a half, and he gets sold for double what we've paid for him. That's good investment, that's good business. So yeah, I certainly think we're on the right track with the backing from the board and from Kavanagh.
Yeah, it certainly seems like they're doing what they can, and they're, like you say, they're living up to the promises of investing and getting us back to where we want to be. So within Commons, there's obviously going to be outgoings. There's been nothing. Thank you to Jockey for the donation. There's going to be outgoings. There's nothing that's popping out in terms of any big transfer fees. But I'll start with the first one that's sort of caught my eye, Billy. Lyle Cameron not really been having any look in since Danny Rowe took over. There is a reports that he is on Aberdeen's radar, possibly going to them on a loan deal. What's your thoughts on that, Billy? Happy he gets out, gets some minutes, or would you rather he be staying behind and getting some game time with us?
He's just not getting game time, Tomo, and for whatever reason, I think he's a good player now, and I've seen him when he played some early games in the season, and I thought he looked pretty good in the midfield position. But the manager obviously doesn't rate him, so I'm going to have to default to he sees him every day in training, and he's not what he wants the team, or it's not what he needs for his team to be successful. So I need to trust that. I do find it very hilarious that it's Aberdeen that have been sniffing around them despite all week complaining about getting fans squished with water. Never mind saying anything about our players getting hit with coins, and then they come cap in hand to try and sign one of our players. But on the other side of that, I also feel we need to be building bridges with clubs that we've maybe not got on with. And I do believe that the kind of higher ups at Aberdeen and Rangers do get on fairly well, from what I'm led to believe. So I wouldn't be against them going there. You need to kind of rise above this, the fan side of things. And yeah, we would like Aberdeen. We're their biggest rivals, but they're certainly not ours. So I don't think we should be not sending players to them if they're going to get game time and they're going to develop, and that benefits us. And hopefully hurts other teams in the league, because I do think he's a good player. So if he gets some playing times, hopefully he can demonstrate that. But if that's who he's been linked with, I think it's quite funny that they've came for him. But yeah, I do think we need to, if we're going to change anything in the way that the Scottish system is run, we need friends. So as much as it's not you do it with I don't know what the term is. You're turning another cheek, Tom, aren't you? You're going, okay, you've hurt us, and you continually put us down, or whatever your fans do at least. But this is a one-sided rivalry. It's not us that have them as rivals. They're not rivals of ours. So, yeah, they want them and they give them game time. That's fine with me.
Yeah, and Bob, going to Aberdeen, we're obviously a team that's not in form at the minute. Haven't got a manager. We've just recently sacked a manager. Got a caretaker manager in charge. They do, when they are on form, they play some decent football, and I could see Cameron doing well there. We sent McCrory up there when he was with us. He done very well out of it. Went on a permanent deal, and then obviously went down to the English Championship where he's doing well. Do you see it being a good move for Cameron to obviously get game time? And do you think the fans will accept him? As Billy said, they've got this one-sided rivalry where to us they've not been irrelevant for 40 years when Alex Ferguson was in charge and we had a little bit of success. But do you think Cameron will thrive up there?
I do, Tomo. I think it's very interesting. I think as much as the fans may not be for it, I certainly think he's probably a player that they need. It's interesting, maybe just to come back to what I said previously about Rowe mentioning that they played men's football against Aberdeen. Maybe I know he was a great player for Dundee, and that was part of the reason why he was brought in under the previous regime when he was Copping. So to me, if he goes there and he plays as positively as he did for Dundee, it maybe brings them up a couple of places and they're fighting for a top 6 finish. It's certainly not going to do us any harm in bringing him back after that, having had consistent game time, confidence in his play, comes back hopefully with a fresh slate in the summer. To help move us forward, or even if it's a case of similar to what you said with McCrory, it can, we've brought him in for nothing. I know there's still a debate going on around the compensation fee with Dundee. However, if he can come in, play well for the next half a season, and we sell him in the summer for a couple of million, then again business model comes in. We can make that money back and reinvest it in the squad. So, it will certainly be interesting. I think I was going to say a similar comparison would be previously from the other side of the city when Ryan Christie went up there for I think it was a couple of years and come back and obviously helped to be successful for the other side of the city before he was sold on down south. So if Leo Cameron can take a similar path to that, it would certainly help us out in getting a good player back that can maybe go on and be successful within the Rangers team. If not, we can look to sell him for a good profit, considering we're only having to really pay a compensation fee for him from Dundee.
Yeah, and Billy, another one that was pretty interesting, I think was pretty much confirmed this week, was Cortez going down to South America. I found it interesting that the breakdown of the loan was published, paying a loan fee up front, and then for each subsequent transfer window they can buy him for X amount of money. For whatever reason, it just hasn't worked for Cortez. He looked good when he first came, first few games, got injured, and then that seemed to be it. So do you see that being him? His time is up at Rangers now, and we're just going to try and recoup whatever we can with him.
Yeah, 100%, Tom. It was an absolute disaster from not from day one, but from signing him with the obligation to buy. We didn't need to do it. We could have said we'll take him for another year on loan and see how it goes. And it's just we tied ourselves into $4 million for a player that played a couple of games for us and got injured. It was madness, and I can't understand the thinking behind agreeing that deal. But do I think he's going to come back to us? No, I think he's probably that's probably his level, to be fair. And if we get half that transfer back, I think we'll be lucky. And just it's a shame. I mean, I say he was it Dundee game he played? It was a game at home anyway. That he scored a goal, looked pretty good. But even when he came back from injury, he never really seemed to get a good run in the team to get 10, 15 games to see what you could do. And by all accounts, his loan moves haven't been particularly good for him either, hence why he's been recalled and sent somewhere else. So it's just one of these ones. Shame that didn't work out for us, but I have no idea why we sanctioned that transfer in the first place. If you don't mind, Tom, although I'm going to bring up, see if I can find the comment. It was from Paul earlier on saying when I mentioned that we need friends, and he said no one likes us, we don't care. Well, look, see, we're going to complain year upon year about the way Scottish football is run to the benefit of one other club, and why the referees bend the knee to one particular club. If we want to change that, unfortunately, yeah, we do need friends. So we do need to build these bridges with other clubs. That's the comment. So I don't in general, Paul, I do agree with that. But when it comes to actually wanting to change anything, it's going to be slow. But we do need to build bridges with other clubs. And if that's giving loans and sweetener deals like the other mob do, then we need to do that. We need to play that game, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. Like you say, Billy, we can't say no one likes us. We don't then complain when we're doing things that show we don't like us. So, totally agree with you. Get Paul's sentiment, totally understand it. But yeah, I agree with you. Billy. And really, Bob, the last sort of one outgoings that's rearing its head again is Dowell. Supposedly Hull and Leicester are interested in him. I'm not too sure when Dowell's contract's up. I've got a feeling it might be this summer. But again, another one who, he was on the bench on Sunday for us. But again, you think that he's another one whose time has just ran out at Rangers and we're just looking to get him off the books now. I guess you'll be happy to see him go whoever takes him.
Yeah, I think I'll be honest, Tom. I've said this to Billy before. I think when we signed Dowell originally, I thought it'd be a really good signing if we could keep him fit. He came in a free transfer and a pre-contract, I think, from Norwich. So he came in, he scored a great goal against Livy. He's been obviously in and out of the team. Injuries have not been his friend. If he's running down his contract, he's obviously went out and did all right last year at Birmingham, down south, and obviously we thought that in the summer somebody would maybe come in for him. He started, I think he started the first game of the season against Motherwell under Russell Martin. Obviously Russell Martin looked at him and they thought he was part of the leadership group, being an older head in amongst the squad. But we've really just not seen anything like what we should have out of Dill. Same goes for Matondo, and probably a couple of others that don't come immediately to mind. But those two I know have featured in more recent squads. I don't know if that again is just to reflect that they're fit and they're available to be taken. I don't wish Dowell any ill, but again, to me, his place in the squad could go to someone who's more deserving. Whether that be one of the youth players or someone else that we've got an eye on to come in and play in that midfield. I just don't think he's going to get. I'm hopeful that in the next couple of weeks before the window shuts that he manages to get something sorted and over the line. I'm maybe not so confident about Matondo unless he comes on or plays tonight and maybe gets some minutes and scores a couple of goals tonight. That might prick up some interest from down south or whatever. But again, money that's just going out the door, Tomo, that could be better spent on, I say long-term future or long-term investments in other players. But excuse me, we've certainly not seen the best out of either player. Maybe just an additional point, I know that there had been, I think at least in our group chat, the mention of Enciala going to Motherwell because they have lost a central defender going back to his parent club. So to me, just on that point, I don't know if you want to bring it up with Billy as well, but I think that would be a good move for him again. Get him out, similar to Cameron, 6 months playing men's football in the league that his parent club's in, can hopefully help Rangers by keeping our title rivals out and hopefully getting some good results if that does come to fruition. But just back to Dell. I'd hopefully see the back of him soon, and we can move on from. I know Billy's not a fan of going down the championship route, so one less championship player in the squad would be welcome.
Yeah, and just on that one, Billy, Bob brought up Nasiala. He looks a decent enough talent, but I don't think he's when everyone's fit. I don't think he's going to be getting much game time. So, a loan to Motherwell, who are playing some very good football this year. They're riding high in the league. Would be a good move for him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any of these players. I mean, the thing is, we need to see who, because there was a comment further up about Cameron. Probably will never play another game for Rangers. I would agree with that, unless it's also you don't include tonight, because you might get a run out tonight just for the sake of getting game time if he's not already agreed to move to Aberdeen or whatever. But NCL is the same for me. That I don't think he's going to make it here. Don't necessarily think he's a bad player. I think his confidence took a knock obviously last season, coming off, get pulled off at Kilmarnock. And he's never really recovered from that. But see, up until then, I actually thought he looked like a decent ball playing centre half, but he's just never really been given the chance. And again, I'll have to trust Danny Rule with that, because he sees him in training day in, day out. But you never know; he might get a run out tonight if things haven't been agreed. I'm for all of these players that aren't getting game time with us. If we can get them playing somewhere else, either so we can see if they can work in this league, or just to confirm that they can't, and then either agree deals with the clubs they're away to, make some money back on them. If I can go though, touch back on you were talking about Dowell. Bob said he thought if we can keep him fit. I never understood why we went for him. I just didn't see where he was going to fit in a team like Rangers. It was always a mistake for me. The problem we've got is free transfer usually means very high wages. So although there's quite a few teams interested in him and in Rothwell, they're both on very high wages, and that's going to be the issue getting them out this transfer window. Is anyone going to either take them off their hands full time, or what's the agreement when it comes to how much we are going to pay the wages, how much they're going to pay the wages? But that's I think they both need to go for the sake of their own playing careers, because Dale's, I know he was on the bench, but that was necessity. He's nowhere near really the team at the moment. And another again with Rothwell, one. I don't know why it's not worked out with him, because on paper, he was a fantastic player with Leeds. Why is he not working out? Why is he not the box-to-box midfielder that we've seen when he was with them? And if it's just fitness, if it's just carrying an injury, fair enough. But I don't see him playing for us again either, Tom. But yeah, as regards to players going out, very happy to loan other players to teams in the same league as us, mainly because it helps hopefully take points off of our rivals, and we get to see if they're actually suited for this league or not.
Yeah, 100%. And we're halfway through January, so I think we'll see a lot more movements, incoming and outgoing, before the end of this window. Really, the last bit of news this week is we appointed new CEO, Jim Gillespie from St Mirren. Bob, he has agreed to be the new CEO. From my understandings, we approached him previously in the past, and he turned it down because the timing wasn't right. What's your thoughts behind that? St Mirren seem a decent run club, a well-run club. Do you think he can take that step up to what Rangers are, and obviously kick us on now, especially after the last sort of CEO that we had?
Yeah, I think Tom, first and foremost, he's from near my neck of the woods. I'm down near Paisley, so it's certainly nice to see. I see a more local guy getting a good job at Ibrox. So I wish him all the best. I think, as you said, St Mirren are a very well run team. He's. I know that I think Billy had been on one of the pods at the start of the week about Jim Gillespie. Apologies if not, but again, he's been the chairman of Kibble, which is a charity. He's had a massive improvement in their money in terms of, I think it went from like 30 million to 50 million. And again, apologies if the numbers aren't correct. I'm just trying to paraphrase from what I remember. But yeah, he's a local guy. He's a Rangers man from all intents and purposes, from what we've heard. He understands the background of the club. He'll certainly come in help, I say, stabilise from a boardroom level. I know Patrick Stewart, I think he just, again, we knew he was going to be an interim appointment until somebody really come in from the new takeover regime. But for me, yeah, I think it's a good appointment. It just helps keep us balanced off the park as it seems to be going on the park, Tomo. So I wish him nothing but the best. I know he's got a notice period to serve out at St Mirren, and again, you only have to look at them this season. I know they've faltered slightly in the league, but the fact that the first trophy that was available is sitting in their cabinet just goes to show how well they have been run in terms of their signings and their transfer policy, which he obviously has had a hand in. So if he can improve us with the quality players that we look to be bringing in, and bringing back certain standards. I know Billy mentions it on a lot of pods about getting back to the standards that we've seen in past eras and regimes going by. It certainly takes us a step forward in that regard. So yeah, positive appointment. Hopefully it's a long-term one. He certainly come into a more stable environment than when it was previously mentioned. And maybe that's part of the reason why he knocked it back the first time round, was that the uncertainty around the board at that time in the last 12 to 18 months before the takeover announcement was made. He maybe just didn't think it was right for him at the time, but maybe he's been given assurances. Again, we've got investment, we've got people in that are obviously taking both the playing side and the non-playing side seriously. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do down the line once he gets in the door.
Yeah, and just really, Billy, your thoughts on Mr. Gillespie coming in. Personally, I think that if someone previously has turned down the position because of whatever, I think that says a lot about them. They could have just gone, yeah, I'll take that job. It's a big, probably better wages, more high profile, but not taking it on because it's not right for them. I think that says a lot about maybe the integrity of the person. So what's your thoughts, Billy, just before we sort of get to wrapping up, really?
Yeah, no, I mean, we don't know. Obviously, he's very experienced in the league, been with St Mirren, so he knows how things work in this country. I don't think it's the same kind of, we've got a bit of a snobbery when it comes to signing players from other Scottish teams, but I think in this instance, the fans, certainly from the reaction I've seen, are very much, as Bob said, we just hope he does well. Hope we don't hear from him very often, because that usually means he is doing well. So that'll be my main thing, that we're looking for things that the American owners don't know or are unaware about how this league runs. Hopefully he's able to educate them when it comes to stuff like that, and is able to run things successfully. Again, no problem that he's coming from another Scottish team for me. He's obviously a successful businessman in his own right. And I think there's I'm not saying that there's no downside. There obviously could be a downside. Maybe he isn't experienced enough. Maybe he's not, up at that top European level. But I think for what we need at the moment, he probably is actually what we need.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Was just a couple of things before we sort of wrap up. Was obviously a game tonight at Ibrox for Annan in the Cup. Won't really touch on that. There'll be a preview of the game on our YouTube channel. I'm not sure who's on this evening, but that is usually about an hour and a half. Who's on, sorry?
It's Doug and other Billy J. They're doing
Cool.
the pre and post.
So tune into that. That's usually about an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes before kickoff. So set your schedule for that one and get the alert. And then there will be a post-match review with the guys as well. As Paul has said there, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 5,000 subscribers. It'd be great to hit that mark. We're coming up to the 2-year anniversary of when we started, so it'd be great to have 5,000 subscribers before that happens. Just before we go, any further thoughts from you, Bob, before we wrap up?
I think just as the chat's saying, if you're going to the game tonight, it's likely going to be chilly, so make sure you're layered up. Hopefully we see at least one of the signings. I think there was something going around this morning that Chukwueze might not make it if he's maybe a wee bit unwell, but hopefully that's just a rumour. Again, hopefully we get through. Results all that matters in these cup games. So yeah, looking forward to a Friday night under the lights. It might not be a Rangers Thursday, but hopefully it's a Rangers Friday.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks again for coming on, Bob. Always a pleasure. And Billy, final thoughts from you before we wrap up.
No, it's been a positive week. I've been refreshing Twitter for us the whole time I've been on, just to see if there's any signing announcement. Nothing as yet. Maybe at 1 o'clock. And then I'll be thinking maybe 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock. I'm hoping for a halftime parade of the 2 new players. So, well, maybe even hopefully one of them's playing, but 2 of the 3 maybe being paraded at halftime would be fantastic this evening.
Yeah, most definitely. That'd be great. Be like old times. Thank you again to everyone who has watched for the last 50 minutes, got involved with the comments. Your support is massively appreciated. And with that, we'll wrap up. And remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Thank you.